welcome back. This is Heritage Tutorial, and today we'll continue. We've started on motion, so we'll continue today. So we'll be talking about the third equation of motion. The third equation of motion, which is what? V square equals to what? U square plus or minus 2as. That's the third equation of motion, or it can be written like this: 2v square equals to what? U square plus or minus what? 2gh, depending on the parameters you are given. This g just stands for the what? Acceleration due to gravity, and the h is what? The height. S is what? The distance. It's just the measure of the what? The length. So the plus or minus indicate that the acceleration might be what? It might be accelerating or what? Decelerating. So it might be acceleration or what? Deceleration. Not necessarily what? Acceleration. So, from the previous class, we talked about the first law, the first equation. We talked about the second equation, and we talked about the third equation today. Now, today we'll be trying to solve questions. We'll try and solve questions on this three equation of motion, and let's see how familiar we are. So I can clean this up. I believe you've written that down. So now we have u. You are given u to be 0. You are given a to be 5 meters per second square. Now, in this question, we have your u to be 0, you have your acceleration to be what? 5, you have your time to be what? 2 seconds, you have your final velocity to be unknown, and you have your, likewise, you have your distance to be unknown. Now, the question is, how do you know from these three? Let me just write it up here. From these three formula, how do you know which one to use while solving your what? Question. Which one are you going to use? Now the question says what? Velocity. Find the final velocity. Now you go back to the formula, check which of this formula is having the final velocity. You could see this and this is having the what? Final velocity. So this one is out of it already. Then you check the parameters. This one is having initial, this one is having acceleration, and this one is having time. This one is having initial velocity, is having acceleration, but having what? Distance. Now I'm going to check the parameters they are given. We have initial velocity, we have acceleration, we have time. We are not given distance. That means this formula we cannot use it because we are not given what? Distance. So it's what? Out of it. Now the formula we'll be using is what? V equals to u plus at. Your final velocity equals to what? Initial, which is given to be what? 0, plus a is 5 multiplied by what? 2 seconds. V equals to what? 10. 10 what? Meter per seconds. So you need to know the parameters you are given. Relate it with the formula. Check the ones that are available in the formula, so you know how to cancel out the rest and know the right formula to use. Let's take another. Okay, we are not done with this. So we have what? We have 10 meters per second under the velocity. Now the question is asking for the distance. You go back to your what? Formula. Out of these three formula, which one is having the distance? This one is not having, so it's out of it. This one is having distance. This one is also having what? Distance. go back to your formula. We have initial velocity, we have acceleration, we have time, we have velocity. Now we have velocity. So go back. Initial velocity, is it here? Yes. Is it here? Yes. Go back. Acceleration, is it here? Yes. It's also here. Your time, is it here? Yes. Is it here? No. That's not all. Your velocity, is it here? No. Is it here? Yes. That means out of this formula, out of this parameter, you can either use one of these two to solve your what? Your distance. So if we pick the first one, which is what? S equals to ut plus what? Half at squared. U is 0, so definitely ut is what? Is 0. Plus what? Half. Your a is what? 5. Your t is 2. And 2 square is what? 4. 5 times 4, 1, 2. So you have your distance to be what? 10 meter. That's when we use this formula. Then let's try and use this formula and see if we have the same answer. V squared. We already know how V squared to be what? 10 square. Now the U is what? 0 square plus 2 multiplied by what? 5 multiplied by what? S, which is what we are looking for. So 10 square is what? 100 equals to what? 10s. So you divide both sides by the coefficient of what? S. We could see that the distance is what? Is still what? 10 meter. So just check your the parameters you are given. Go back to your formula, check it. If you could see the parameters on the right hand side, that means you are good to go. This is the right hand side, this is the left hand side. This is what you are looking for, and this is what you have. So I believe we are gaining one or the other thing. So let's treat one more example on this. You are given your speed distance to be 50 meter. Your acceleration, now let's do something. Your velocity to be 5 meter per second. Your time to be 3 seconds. And your initial velocity to be 2 meter per second. Now the question asks you for the final velocity. Calculate the final velocity. Now I told you, when you have something like this, you go back to your what? Formula. That means you must know your formula offhand. You must know it offhand. Now we have our distance, we have the final velocity, we have the time, we have the what? Initial velocity. Go back. This one is not even having distance, so it's cancelled out. This one is having distance, it's having initial velocity, but we are looking for what? Final velocity. So it is also what? Out. This one is having, we are looking for final velocity. It has initial velocity. It has, now, it has, we have acceleration here, but we are seeing V and T here. That doesn't mean we cannot proceed, because I told you earlier that you must be flexible with this formula. A is what? V over what? T. So that means we can derive our A from V and T. Then we have what? The distance. So we can solve, which means V squared equals to, what's our use? That's 2 squared plus 2 multiplied by 5 over 3 multiplied by what? 50. You see that? Now 5 over 3 is now the what? V over T, 2, and what? The distance. So we have what? 4 plus 10 multiplied by 50 over, now because of so as to make things easy, let's use 2. Let's use 2. Yeah. So we have 4 plus what? This is what? 500 over 2. 500 over 2 is what? 250. Then v squared equals to what? 254. V is equals to what? Square root of what? 254. So we could see that from this parameter, we know the kind of formula to use for it and how to go about this a, because we are not given a directly. We have to use v over t to get our a. And our v, you can press it in your calculator, the square root of 254, you have your answer. Thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate your cooperation. It's a heritage tutorial, and we are here to give you the best. Please feel free to comment on each videos so that we know how to relate with you all. Thank you so much.